And I also heard that apart from Microsoft, you also got an offer from Apple.
Yes, I had offers from Apple and Goldman Sachs.
Tell me about the recruiters who came to hire for Microsoft. How were they in general?
Round one, it's proper coding. It was proper coding in Microsoft. For other companies, they sometimes ask MCQs as well,
Acha.
maybe related to computer science knowledge or maybe related to mathematics, probability, or some aptitude.
Hmm.
It's a popular problem of dynamic programming. So there was some changes that they had made to for you to not recognize it's that problem. But once you had realized that it was the problem of LIS, it was easy to solve. And the other was complete, logic based, like. You were given an array and you had to perform some operations.
Okay.
uh, I had used binary search, but others told me that it could have been done without using any optimization as well. So again, a pro tip here, that if you get a very difficult question that you're not getting the algorithm of,
Yeah.
try to get as much as you can. Try to
Yeah.
get as much test cases as you can, because test cases have partial markings as well. So Microsoft, they had 3 rounds, and all 3 rounds were coding rounds.
All right.
So the discussion began with my resume and with my project that I had done in my internship. Why, like, what is the impact of that project?
Okay.
Everything, like, so you have to be through and through with your internship project.
And do they, during this process, do they also look for how optimized your code is, like complexities and what kind of programming ways do you use? Are you using some binary search or heap sort or whatever?
And this was a proper data structures algorithm round. So they asked me a question of trees. It was an advanced question, in my opinion. Uh, Later, I found out that both of these problems, that the problem that was asked earlier to me and this problem, both of them were standard problems in Geeks for Geek.
Okay.
However, I think not reading them worked in my favor.
Can you use Stack Overflow during your coding sessions?
The
Yes.
idea of a resume is for you to give an introduction or to give a concise, idea of what your technical capabilities are.
Up to the month of December, what were the topics that you focused on?
As I told you, longest increasing subsequence is a problem.
Yeah.
Then egg dropping problem, knapsack problem,
Yes.
all these problems.
Hi, Ritwik.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are. Thanks
Yeah.
for thanks for joining this chat.
Thanks. Thank you for inviting me.
How have you been doing?
Yeah, it's been as good as it can be in Corona time. So
Well, 2020 is ending soon, so hopefully
yeah,
next year.
that's a positive.
But good to know that you ended 2020 on a really high note. Congratulations,
Yes.
Microsoft.
Thank you so much.
So before we start, let me tell everyone, Ritwik is a final year computer science student from IIT BHU, and he recently got placed in Microsoft, right?
Right.
And I also heard that apart from Microsoft, you also got an offer from Apple
Yes, I had offers from Apple and Goldman Sachs.
and Goldman Sachs.
Right.
Amazing. Microsoft, Apple, Goldman Sachs. And also, I heard you went to the final round of Google, but you could not actually, could not participate because maybe you had offers or something.
No, no, no. So for Google, I did not make the shortlist.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right.
So, my sister is also in the final year and she got placed in MasterCard. So,
Right.
thank you again for doing this interview. And basically, we are going to talk about Microsoft. Although I'm sure you can contribute a lot for students who want to get into Apple or Goldman Sachs or pretty much any other company. But
Right.
let's keep it specific and talk about your Microsoft journey.
Sure, sure.
So, and by the way, feel free to, like, if you are not confident or as in you are not comfortable about talking about something because you are just recently hired by Microsoft and you think they might not like it, feel free to just stop me right there. It's completely
Right.
fine. As much as you can help the people who are going to watch this video, it will be appreciated.
Right.
All right. So tell me about the recruiters who came to hire for Microsoft. How were they in general?
So this time, since everything was online,
Yeah.
so all of the interviews were conducted through either of the video conferencing softwares.
Okay.
In Microsoft, it was through Microsoft Teams, and I had generally heard that people who come to hire are of the mid-tier range, like they're just working for like 5 6 years 10 years,
Okay.
but there were some senior people as well who interviewed me,
All right. All
so
right.
that was a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah. And they asked certain questions which I was not able to even think of. They were
I'm
mostly related
sure.
to my project,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they asked very advanced questions of which I had no clue of even how to approach.
Uh,
So yeah, that
but
was an
would you
experience.
say they were friendly, or would you say they were like
Definitely.
very to the point?
No, no, no. As all my interview across the three companies, all of the interviewers were very friendly. They because it was at the night. In IIT's placement
Yeah.
happened from 12 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So they were like, we were getting a nervous, maybe a bit jittery. So they were very relaxing us in the 5 10 minutes of the interview. Just said we get started, and then
Okay.
they started asking. So
So
yeah, they
people
were very
don't need
friendly.
to be scared of interviews from Microsoft or any of these big companies, right? Like usually people
Um,
get really, scared and nervous before such an interview. So I think the message would
so
be don't get scared from recruiters.
Yeah, so a guest speaker came to our college in our third year,
Okay.
and they told us a secret that the interviewer or the recruiter always wants to hire you
All
because
right.
they're spending 45 minutes, they're literally spending their money
Yeah.
interviewing you. So they actually want to hire you, they actually want to help you so that you get hired. So you
Okay.
have to think of them as your friend. You have to think of them that they actually are supportive, and it has happened in across the three interviews that I got stuck. I was going in the wrong direction, and they helped me see the light. So that
So you
happened.
can actually discuss with them and come up with the solution. You don't have to answer everything by yourself.
Definitely.
Okay.
They I think that is the approach that one has to do in all these interviews, because right answer is not that important as much as the approach that you're following.
Yeah.
So you should keep discussing with the interviewer. Okay, so this is the question that you've given me. Okay, this is how I'm thinking about it. So when you keep discussing, it helps in two things. One is that it reveals your thought process to the interviewer, which is actually what they're trying to judge. And two, it helps them see that if you're going in the wrong direction, then they help you back in the right track. So it works for both of you, and that's why you should keep discussing your approach, keep talking throughout the interview.
Nice, nice. Now, before we move on and talk about the various rounds, I have to ask you this. Why did you choose Microsoft over Apple or Goldman Sachs?
uh it was a tough choice, actually. Like, all three of them are pioneers in their fields.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and it
And
like
especially, sorry for interrupting, but people have like fan bases for Apple and fan bases for Microsoft. I'm sure you have seen those ads, the Microsoft guy, the Apple guy from the 90s. So
Right, right.
it's really interesting why you chose Microsoft over Apple. And I think that I would really like to know what went through your mind while making.
So in the fan base camp, I was actually a Microsoft guy, but it's all
Okay.
right. Like, that is not the decision that I took from. So from what I understood, I talked to the seniors at various places, like working at Apple, Goldman Sachs, Microsoft. And the reason that I chose Microsoft is that Microsoft is a core technology company, so to speak, a core software company.
Okay.
And hence, if I talk about the kind of projects that I'll get, or the kind of exposure that I'll get, I'll be at the forefront of technology always, be it in cloud, be it in operating system, or be it in any of their softwares that they are
Mm.
doing. Goldman Sachs, again, is an investment bank.
Yeah.
So while they use technology for their services, the one leading the line will always be the finance guys.
Yes.
And same goes for Apple, that it has made great forays into the software industry as well. But again, it's a hardware company which makes phones and laptops.
Yeah.
So my decision was based on this idea that, and I talked to the seniors as well, that in Microsoft I will have the most opportunity to grow as a software engineer, to learn more technologies, to become a to get the most exposure in the software engineering field that I want to go.
Okay.
And yeah, hence that choice I have
All
made.
right. Okay. So why don't you tell us about the various rounds of Microsoft? Like, what did you have to go through?
Okay, so how placements happen in all companies, I'll give a brief overview of how the placement procedure is.
Yeah.
That from October to November, we have tests, coding tests mostly,
Yeah.
for software development roles. and sometimes aptitude tests for other roles as well.
Okay.
And for all these three companies, Apple, Goldman Sachs, and Microsoft, we had to go through a coding test.
Mhm.
And it is mostly open for all branches, sometimes open for only the computer science, electronics, electrical
Okay.
branches, and sometimes they have CPI cutoff as well. So there's a limit on who all can give the test as well.
Okay.
So
That's
after
round one,
they
right?
yeah, that's round one. So after they take a test, they shortlist, like I think Microsoft, the test was of 200 to 250 people, and they shortlisted around 40 to 50.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is the ratio in almost every other company as well.
Okay.
So round one, it's proper coding. It was proper coding in Microsoft. For other companies, they sometimes ask MCQs as well,
Acha.
maybe related to computer science knowledge or maybe related to mathematics, probability, or some aptitude,
Okay.
those types of questions. In Microsoft, it was three coding questions
Okay.
completely. Uh,
Can you tell us about
for
the topics I mean, I don't want to know the coding questions, but maybe do you remember the topics on which the questions were asked?
Right. So Microsoft had a bunch of questions. Like there was a pool of questions out of which every candidate was given three.
Okay.
So it did happen that some of them had an easy question, an easy lot, and some of them might have a
Difficult
harder
lot.
lot. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that is a part of the game.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you can do about it. In my case, I had three questions. Out of them, two were easy, like two were doable, and the third one was really hard.
Okay.
So the two of them were, I think one was a simple, some simple change in problem in the least longest increasing subsequence.
Hmm.
It's a popular problem of dynamic programming. So there was some changes that they had made to for you to not recognize it's that problem. But once you had realized that it was the problem of LIS, it was easy to solve. And the other was complete, logic based. Like you were given a array and you had to perform some operations.
Okay.
Uh, I had used binary search, but others told me that it could have been done without using any optimization as well. A
Okay.
simple brute force solution would have worked. I used binary search, and that gave me the correct answer.
Okay.
The third problem was the hard one that I couldn't crack. But I think what worked in my favor was that I cracked some of the simple test cases. So,
Okay. Various test cases are running in the background, and you cracked some of the test cases, and hence,
right.
yeah. Okay.
So, like eight test cases were there, and I think I solved three of the test cases.
Which platform was
So,
this conducted on?
so
Metal.
this was Metal. Yeah,
Ah,
this was
metal.
Metal.
Okay.
Right. I
Yes.
think Microsoft used to do it on CoCubes or some other platform, but this time it was a new platform. Like I had not
Okay.
seen this before. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it was Metal, I think.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, so third question, three test cases I had passed. Later, I like some people told me that it was a very hard question, and I don't think so anybody solved it.
Okay.
Like at least the people who got that question from the same as my pool. But yeah, so again, a pro tip here that if you get a very difficult question that you're not getting the algorithm of,
Yeah.
try to get as much as you can. Try to
Yeah.
get as much test cases as you can, because test cases have partial markings as well. So
Yes.
if
Sure.
that question was worth 50 points and I cracked three, I might have got 10, 12 points, which
Yeah.
would have,
Each point
given me a
counts.
lead.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
Right. So this was Microsoft's test. A lot of people had cracked three questions. Some had cracked, like in their pools, in the so quote unquote easier pool, they had cracked three questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had not cracked all three, so I was not very hopeful of getting this shortlist. I was like, I have not cracked all three. The others who have done it might, be preferred ahead. But yeah, luckily I got the
Okay.
shortlist. So there's that.
Okay. All right. That's really nice to know. I mean, it does give an insight into how programming in competitive exams like these placement selections actually work. People actually think it's either everything right or it's everything wrong, but it's actually not. That's true. Okay. What about the second round? How did that begin?
Right. So the shortlist was done, and this test was on 29th of November. So all our interviews happen simultaneously. Like of the top companies, all them happen in December 1, 12 a.m.
Okay.
So yeah, at the midnight hour it begins, and it goes on till 6, 7 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Uh, so Microsoft, they had three rounds, and all three rounds were coding rounds.
Okay.
However, for me, two rounds were taken simultaneously, and that was all.
Okay, because you did so well in those 2 rounds, you didn't appear for third round, or it was some other thing.
I don't know
Okay.
why they did not take my third
I
round.
mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
asked.
obvious answer that, I mean, that's what I can think of. Why else would they not require a third round from you? I think
Yeah,
you did the two
maybe
rounds pretty well. Yeah. Okay.
maybe there was some time constraint, or maybe because my two rounds happened simultaneously. So
Okay.
usually what happens is that you have 45 minutes one round, then you get a break, and then the second round and the third round.
Okay.
uh for me it happened simultaneously, so maybe they had a holistic assessment
Okay.
of my application. Both of them were proper computer science rounds. So usually companies also have an HR round
Yeah.
where they discuss they discuss HR questions of who you are as a candidate, or what your
Yeah. Yeah.
working style is and things like that. But for me it was all computer science questions, and in fact I asked others as well, and for them also the three rounds were proper computer science rounds.
Okay. So there was no particular HR round about in the Microsoft interview, right?
Might be for some people. For the friends that I asked, there was none.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So in round two of your programming challenge, what was the main topic of the problems? How many problems did you solve, and what was the main topic?
In my, I had given my we have an internship experience as well in our third year, and this was my fourth year. So in internships, the questions were proper data structures algorithms,
Okay.
and in fact, not even things of operating systems or object-oriented programming. All of these was not also expected in the internship rounds.
Okay.
However, in the placement rounds, I what from what I found out was that they were wanting to touch all aspects of software development.
All right.
So the discussion began with my resume and with my project that I had done in my internship.
Okay.
And like I remember that in the internship, it usually was a 5 minute light discussion when we moved to the data structures part. But here it was a 15 to 20 minutes discussion where we really went to the depth of every architectural decision that we had taken. What was the logic behind it?
In your internship,
Why?
right?
I'm talking about my placements.
No, no. I
Yeah,
mean,
the project that I had done in my internship. Yeah.
yes. So the 15-minute discussion was about all the architectural decisions you took during your internship, right?
Correct.
Okay.
All the like every nit bit of my project. Why like what is the impact of that project?
Okay.
Everything like so you have to be through and through with your internship project.
So it was a verbal
And
programming round, like a verbal technical round.
this part this discussion of the project part was completely verbal.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we were not asked to draw any diagrams or show any
Okay.
code. We were just asked to discuss what was the project, what was the impact, what impact did it have on the organization, what did you do, what was the technical difficulties that you faced, all the architectural decision that you took, what would you have done differently, was it scalable, questions like this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they asked me certain problem. While I was talking, they were trying to see that okay, the project that I had done, the decision that I took, it worked in my condition. Okay, but what if the condition was different? What if your global base was what if your customer base was entirely global? What would you have done differently?
Okay.
So they were asking these questions as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And that this is your second round.
Yeah, this is my interview round, right? The first round was the test, and this is my
Yes.
interview round.
Okay. So, and
So
how long did it last for, the second round?
right. So for the first 15 minutes, we discussed this my project, and
Okay.
for the next 30 minutes, that is for the 45 minutes of round two, we discussed a coding problem.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
45 minutes.
it was an implementation problem. Basically, when you were given a array and you had to do some changes in it to make it suitable.
Okay.
So we had to find a certain index, then sort after it, so on and so forth.
And do they, during this process, do they also look for how optimized your code is, like complexities and what kind of programming ways do you use? Are you using some binary search or heap sort or whatever? Like, do they
Right. So I'll
actually?
tell you how. Yeah, I'll tell you. So after 15 minutes of my project discussion, they asked me to share my screen
Okay.
and open up a coding environment.
Okay.
I used code blocks for that, and then they gave me the question, and I had to discuss my approach and then code it up as well.
Okay.
So I discussed my approach. My first problem was ON. So they were like, no, we can do better. Then I searched for the next, like, okay, so how do I optimize it? And as I told you, keep discussing your approach, and the interview will start guiding you.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is what was happening.
Okay.
So I began with a brute force approach. They told me why it was not optimal, how we can maybe make it better.
Mhm.
And then when I found the solution, and when I came to the algorithm, okay, like I think this works. They affirmed, yeah, this seems like the right algorithm. Will you code it up? I coded it up. I showed them the code. We ran the code. It worked, and that is how it went.
And what was your language of choice?
My language of choice was C++, but they were flexible on the end. They
Yeah.
were like,
Okay.
whichever language you wanted. Yeah,
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So this is round two. And
right.
after a break, you had to go for round three, right?
So usually it happens after a break, but for me, it happened on the same call. So the next
Okay.
interview I joined on the same call. Yeah,
Okay. So after 45 minutes, you had round three directly.
correct.
Okay.
I was just joined on the same call, and this was a surprise to me because I was expecting a 15 to 20 minutes break, but yeah, it started. Again, so the discussion here was for 5-10 minutes, like for a very small short time. It was on my project, and this was a proper data structures algorithm round. So they asked me a question of trees. It was an advanced question in my opinion. Uh,
They
but
asked you a
what
question about?
trees,
Okay. Okay. Yes.
self-balancing trees.
Yes.
They asked me a question about that, and to be honest, I was clueless at the beginning of it. uh, Later I found out that both of these problems, that the problem that was asked earlier to me and this problem, both of them were standard problems in GFG.
Standard problems in?
Geeks for Geeks. So it's
Yes.
a
Okay.
website where a lot of previous year questions are
Right.
there for
Okay.
different companies.
Okay.
However, I think not reading them worked in my favor, because had I read them, I would have given the standard solution, and it
You
would
would
not
have
have been
known.
as impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have not have been as impressive as the way I worked up to the solution.
Yeah.
So, especially in my second round, not so much in the first round, but in my second round, there's a standard algorithm which you have to do,
Mm.
and if you do that, it works. But for me, I could not reach the standard algorithm, but I reached a different way to do the question,
Okay. Okay.
and that I think highly impressed the interviewer. That okay, so this guy in the short time span thought of a different approach, which is not the standard approach that everyone else might have answered.
Yeah.
And I think this worked in my favor.
Definitely.
So
I mean,
right, so when I gave,
those recruiters will know, right? What is the generic answer from Stack Overflow or Geeks for Geeks or whatever. I mean, they are in this recruitment business for a long time, so I'm
correct,
sure they would know. Yeah.
correct, and so yeah, I think that worked in my favor of not knowing the question previously. And
Yeah.
after this, my rounds were done. I asked my representative, do I have any more rounds? Since I told you that everyone was having, more rounds, I was like, okay, maybe I did not make this round. Maybe they rejected me midway. But yeah, it worked in my favor.
Okay. And then you just received your call letter or what do you call it?
Yeah, we received a confirmation from our placement office that these
Confirmation
are the
letter.
companies that
Okay.
you have. Yeah. So,
Okay, all right, all right. That's really nice. And actually doing round two and round three together. So how long did that last for? Almost
so
one and a
that
half hours,
lasted,
right?
yeah, almost 1.5 hours, 1 hour 40 minutes, in fact.
I mean, that could be
Yeah.
really tense for anyone. I mean, coding under pressure for 1.5 hours.
Right. But credit to the Microsoft recruitment team, they did not make me feel that I was under some there was no stress after a while. They were very helpful, very approaching, and that really helped me do well.
Okay. Uh, when I release this video, there will be one particular comment that will be very common, and that is, can you use Stack Overflow during your coding sessions? So I might as well ask you this right now. Do you know anyone or have you, while coding, were using Stack Overflow to look for ideas or something? Like, can you use
So
external websites as help during your coding round?
right. Right. So I I think it depends on mm, college to college.
Okay.
But for our college, it was very strict. It was that we had to use the HackerRank or Metal or whatever platform in which neither tab switching was allowed, neither looking away from the screen was allowed.
Ah,
So
okay.
your face had to be on the screen. Your tabs had to be the tab that you had opened.
Yeah.
Along with that, we were also being proctored by a camera that was on our side, so that we are not in any way using any
Okay.
other material apart from the coding round.
Okay.
So yeah, no documentation, no Stack Overflow, nothing during the coding round, as well as the interview as well, because then you are live chatting with the interview.
Yeah. So whatever reference you want, you can ask the recruiter directly. You can't just look at
Right.
the external source.
Correct. You just ask them that, okay, I'm not for example, it happens that when you're development, like I mostly do my development in Python or JavaScript, right?
Okay.
So sometimes you forget the methods that exist in C++.
Yeah.
That, okay, so how do you find an element in a vector, or how do you find an element in a set? So you sometimes forget that syntax, and usually you would Google it up. But for the interviewer, you can just ask them that, okay, I'm
Okay.
currently missing, how do you do something, and they will help you.
Okay. Okay.
Because again, the point is not to test your language skills as much as your algorithmic skills, your
Yes.
critical thinking skills.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. Indeed. So let's talk about your resume. I think it would be really interesting for others to see how you have written your resume, because resume is the first impression you make on any recruiter. Uh,
Right.
so
Yeah.
first of all, I noticed that your resume is very crisp. It's just one page. I think
Right.
that's really nice. I've seen a lot of people making resumes 3 pages long, 4 pages long. So also it's very crystal clear. These are the languages you know. These are the projects you have done. This is your achievement, and these are the courses that you have done. So
Correct.
when you made your resume, what how did you think of writing your resume? Did you take any help from your seniors, or you got some like tips about writing resumes from the internet? If yes, then which sites should third year students or people who are going to face their placement should follow?
Right. So I obviously asked my seniors.
Yeah.
There are some close seniors that I take career advice from, and the whole idea is that you have to understand what the point of a resume is, right? A lot of people think that the recruiter is going to read your resume through and through, and you write 3-4 pages, then they're not gonna read it. They're not gonna
Yes,
even
indeed.
understand the context of what you've written, right? For
Yes.
example, if I've done a certain project in my internship, and I've written, let's say, 5 lines about it, the recruiter will not be able to know, okay, why was this necessary? Okay,
Yes.
what does your company do? What the place that you interned at? What was your project's requirement? Like all these things are never you can never talk about it in your resume, and you should not even try to. The
Yes.
idea of a resume is for you to give an introduction, or to give a concise idea of what your technical capabilities are,
Okay.
and to give them talking points in the interview as well.
Exactly.
So the interviewer is going to read your resume, and whatever they find interesting, or whatever they find, okay, that this is a part of your technical aspect that discussion should be done on. That is when you reveal your whole story. Okay, this was the context, this was my project requirement,
Yes.
this is how I achieved it, so on and so forth.
Yes.
And hence your and if a resume is shorter, there's also a chance of them reading through the entire thing.
Yes.
But if it's 2 page long or 3 page long, then a lot of things are going to be glossed over as well. So I think I talked to my seniors, and that was the idea, that you give them keywords that if they read
Exactly.
in your resume, or if their software reads it in a resume, because a lot of companies are now choosing automated ways of selecting a resume. For
Yes,
example,
they
if you are
do.
hiring for a right, although it has not been revealed, so we don't know, but we can assume that if they are hiring for a software role, they might want certain technologies that you should know,
Yes.
and mentioning them in your resume would help you.
Yes.
So that is what I did in my resume. That my first was my academic background, my college and my school. uh, Followed by it was my skills and the technologies that I have worked on, and I know I can answer. Again, I think this is a tip that will sound like a broken record for everyone, but one should never mention in your resume something that you cannot talk about. I
Yes.
think it's the biggest red flag,
Indeed.
that if you've written something in your resume and you fumble or you speak something wrong about it,
Yeah.
it just speaks that you're faking, and like that is problematic.
Yes. Indeed.
uh, yeah, so know, write about the technologies that you know. Some people also write technologies like, I know this basic, I know this intermediate, I know this advanced.
Yes.
I don't prefer that approach. I think I can just reveal that to the interviewer them there and there. If they ask me, okay, do you know Django? I can tell that yes, I have worked on a project, I have intermediate knowledge of it, so on and so forth. I don't think so that is required.
Okay.
Again, because your resume is one page, so you have to be very conscious of the real estate that you're using,
Yes.
and no word or no section of it should be wasteful in any way.
Yes. No, no,
Right.
that's true.
So
And especially what you told me about your interviews, that they were diving deep into the projects that you have done, especially in various companies, and what was the architectural design behind each of those projects. I think it makes sense to just mention the crux of the thing that you have done the best and you understand the best, and basically talk about that. Instead of being a jack of everything, you show exactly what the best points are about you.
correct. In a project, let's say if it's a project of 3 to 4 people, or maybe a team of 10 people, you
Yeah.
must have done one particular feature or one particular aspect of it. You just
Yes.
write about that in your resume and you discuss about it at depth. From the start, okay, what technology, for example, if you use Java, why did you use Java or not Python?
Yes.
Then if you used a queuing system, why not Kafka or RabbitMQ? If you
Okay.
use cloud services, why did you use hot storage and cold storage? Like anything that involves around your project.
Yes.
So
And is it okay to not know something during an interview? Like when you don't know what to answer, basically, uh, is it okay to say no, I don't know, or should you make something up during that process?
So, if it is something that is that you've written in your resume, and if that is the impression that, okay, let's say I've written that I've done Spring MVC,
Hmm.
I've done my project in Spring, and then they ask, okay, then what is a bean in Spring? So I cannot say I don't know, because like you have written it in your resume that you know this, and it's a very basic question, or what a dependency injection.
Yes.
So I think saying I don't know here is, like, I think it's problematic, and you're basically saying that you lied on your resume.
Yeah.
uh, so it's better to answer in whatever capacity you understand. For example, if you do not know the exact technical definition of a dependency injection, you can just say that, okay, in my understanding, I have used it in this way, and this is what I understand about it. So
Yeah.
basically just reveal what you know, and to the extent of that, and be frank about it, that this is what I know, and which is why I've written it on my resume,
Yes. Indeed.
basically.
Indeed.
Right.
That's nice
And
too.
if they're asking something completely off the top, then you can just simply say I don't know, because if you have not mentioned it that you know about it, for example, if you've not done a machine learning project, then they start talking about it, you can just say that, okay, I've not touched machine learning uh, in my career up until now, so I'm not very confident about this.
Okay. Now in Microsoft, you did not appear for an HR interview, but did you appear for an HR interview in Apple or Goldman Sachs?
Right. There were two, both of them ended on a 15 to 20 minutes HR round.
And did any of those HR interviews actually focused on your resume, like things that you have achieved, maybe, or what kind of a person you are?
Not really. They were general chats. Uh, they did not go through my resume. They might have just
Looked
glanced
it
over a
up.
look,
Yeah.
but yeah, but they never particularly asked, okay, that you've mentioned this POR or you've mentioned this achievement.
Yeah.
Uh, Wanna talk about it? It was a very general chat that began with, okay, what has been your background so far? I answered something. They touched, like when I answered something, then they picked questions from there. Okay, that you say that in your third year you did this. Would you talk about it? Like it was
Okay.
very very frank. I think again the point of an HR interview is to see whether I'd like to work with this person or not. I
Yes.
think that is
Like
what the
team.
HR is trying to look for.
Yeah. Like how good would you fit in their team, and what kind of a
Correct.
person you are? Because you need all
Right.
kinds of people in a team. Every if
Right.
all the team players are extrovert, that's a problem. If all the team players are introverts, that's a problem. You need all kinds
Right.
of people in a team. So yeah, I mean that's a good suggestion.
So I
uh,
think like the simple tip that I have is be positive, be very be very approachable, be very you know, uh, what do you say, accommodative of what they are seeing, and just do this in a very natural way.
yeah.
That's all that is required. So I don't think so. In HR round, they're looking for tick marks. They're just looking for, okay, if there is a red flag with
Yeah.
your personality,
Yes. Yes.
that right. Because I remember I was taking a mock interview of a friend, and they said something that, no, I don't like this, and you don't want to work with a no person, right? So that is the kind of thing that never, don't say no, just be very approaching, very positive,
Yes,
and
yes,
I think that
yes.
that works.
Because ultimately you want the job, and you have to find reasons where you can make yourself available in different ways, like
Correct.
show your personality in that way, for
Correct.
sure.
For example, if
So
they ask, okay, do you have any work location? You can reveal that, okay, I'd like to work in Delhi,
yes,
but I'm okay with working anywhere.
yeah,
And then, just end it on that note that,
yeah,
yeah, I have my preferences, but I'm
you're
okay if
flexible.
things come to that. Yeah. Yeah.
And so finally, uh, like because you had a placement session, like you have something called as placement season during the month of December.
Right.
So up to the month of December, what were the topics that you focused on for clearing different kinds of rounds, technical rounds?
So I think from what I did specifically might be different from what other people do. So
Yeah.
there's usually, at least in IITs, a culture of doing competitive programming and solving code chef, code forces, these challenges.
Yes.
I particularly never liked them. I did not like the UI. I did not like the whole environment of them.
Mm.
So what I did was I basically went through what is asked in the previous years. I think a lot of data is available on the internet, be it
Yes.
lead code, be it interview bit, or Geeks for Geeks. A lot of previous year experiences there. I just used to go through them before any test. That okay. So and after I've done a test, so for example, I told you that from October to November, there were a lot of tests. And let's say
Yeah.
I remember in one test there was segment tree which was asked, and I could not solve that test.
Yeah.
I could not solve that question. So I came, like, after the test was done, I was like, okay, I don't know segment tree. Let me do 5 questions on them.
Yeah. Okay.
So placement season, you get prepared by giving tests. Like, that is the kind of a season there is. Most people do it through contests. What they do is they give coach chef, code forces these contests. When
Yeah.
they're not able to solve a problem, they realize, okay, I don't understand dynamic programming perfectly, let me do more questions on it. So
Okay.
that basically the idea is that you find out your particular weaknesses and you work on them. For
Yeah.
some people, for example, I had a friend who was excellent in graphs. So suggesting them, okay, this is a book, do 10 questions of graph, it's useless. They already know graphs, they already understand.
Yeah.
They should work on, what their problems are, what their weaknesses are, and work on
Yeah.
that. So that is the idea.
Yeah. And do you think these companies have a special preference for certain topics like data structure algorithms or object oriented programming or like binary trees or optimization techniques?
Right. So what I found out that one is that you should be great in your implementation skills.
Okay.
So what I mean by implementation is that if you are given an array and you have to manipulate in some way, using indices, using pointers, things like that, you should be very comfortable in. So basically, what they'll do is they'll probably just give you a question which has a very simple solution in your paper, but like you can do it on the paper very easily. But to code it up, basically to convert paper logic to code, that is the difficult part. And so that just happens with the more you code. It's basically a practice of coding, that if you have coded a lot of questions, you understand, okay, how do I convert this logic into computer science, into code logic.
Yes.
The other topic that I found that was extremely popular in all the tests was dynamic programming. I
Okay.
think in all the tests that I'd done, almost one question was always of dynamic programming.
Okay. Can you give an
So
example, like a topic from dynamic programming that
yeah,
might?
so dynamic programming has very standard problems. As I told you, longest increasing subsequence is a problem.
Yeah.
Then egg dropping problem, knapsack problem, all
Yes.
these problems. I think if you'll go to if you go to Geeks for Geeks and go to dynamic programming, you'll get a lot of standard questions,
Yes.
and you start practicing them and you start developing the intuition behind, okay, why do we use dynamic programming? How do we identify those questions?
Yes.
And because that, I think this is one topic that I feel that I saw across all
Okay.
tests. Some tests had graphs as well, some had trees, some had two dynamic programming problems as well,
Yeah.
but one dynamic programming is compulsory.
Yes.
Like,
Okay.
that is what I felt. At least maybe this is the trend of this season, it changes next season, but yeah,
No,
this is what I
actually, it's pretty much used every year. Like since my year of graduation, and every time I've changed companies, I have to go through a programming test. And like binary tree is a very common problem. Everyone asks in their own way, you know.
felt. Right.
So That's definitely an important topic. And what websites or newsletters would you suggest for your juniors or other people who are applying for jobs right now, for getting more acquainted with these concepts?
So I primarily use these three. In fact, just the two: Geeks for Geeks and Lead Code. Uh,
Geeks for Geeks and
very pa- Geeks for Geeks and Lead Code.
Lead Code. Yes. Okay.
Right. I did not use Interview Bit much, although that is also a very recommended website.
Interview
So
bit.
these two, yeah, these two I used to do extensively.
Yes.
Uh, and yeah, so for example, let's say I want to learn about graphs. I read some articles on Geeks for Geeks, and I want to practice some questions. I used to go to Lead Code, set the topic to graph, and do 5 questions, 10 questions.
Okay.
Easy, like it also has easy, medium, hard, so I can do some medium questions, some hard questions, so on and so forth.
Okay. One more
Yeah.
question I have, and it's not programming related, but it's more about your fluency skills in English. So do you think recruiters from Microsoft, like if someone is not fluent in English, do you think it's gonna be a difficult task for them to clear Microsoft or Google or Apple or whatever?
um
Like, can you
I
tell your
cannot
recruiter that sorry, I don't know English? Can I talk in Hindi?
I cannot objectively answer this because
Yes.
since my internship experience, I had a point that I have to be fluent in English. At
Yes.
least this was a tip that was given by my seniors that uh, although I don't think so anybody gets rejected because of this, that okay, they don't know English,
Mhm.
let's reject them.
Yes.
But I cannot objectively answer this because but I don't think so very like fluent English or some you need to be a great communicator to crack these interviews. You must have this ability that you are able to communicate your thought. You just think
Yes.
about a software engineer, right? They don't have to stand on stage and give presentations. That's not
Correct.
their job.
Yes.
But they do have a job of being able to communicate with their peers, being
Yes.
able to communicate technical ideas, being able to communicate logic if they are sharing between two people. And I think that much level of proficiency is required.
Yes.
Obviously, if you cannot public speak or if you cannot give long lectures, that is not a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I think about Hindi, since you asked that particularly, I think since people work in different offices, like at least a big organization such as Microsoft, Google, you might be required at times to work with someone from the US, someone from Europe, someone from
Yes.
Africa. And I think they might have a preference. Again, this is
Yes.
based on a hunch, but they would want candidates who can at least, as I told you, communicate basic technical knowledge sharing in English.
Because
So I think
if you go on LinkedIn and you look for jobs, there is always a point that says fluent in English. You know,
right,
and a lot of people, actually, a lot of students from our country, especially, who are not very much fluent in English because they are from the state medium schools or just not exposed to the language properly, might have a difficult time and they might feel demotivated. But I mean,
definitely
it's something you should learn, in my opinion. Whether you are applying for Microsoft or not, English is something everyone should learn to speak, because ultimately it makes your learning experience also much easier. So much
correct. You
material
have
is.
more resources, right?
Yes,
You
yes,
have more resources in English. All the articles of Geek for Geeks are written in English, lead
exactly.
code. So there's that. And plus, even in India, if you have to work with people who are not native Hindi speakers,
Yeah.
if you just know Hindi and you cannot communicate in English, that's a bottleneck. So
Yes, yes, indeed. So thanks a lot for sharing your interview session, your interview
thank you so much.
experience, for everyone. I will let you know if people have some questions for you, and if you're free, you can answer them, and I'll write those people back. And
Okay.
congratulations again for your
Thank
Microsoft,
you so
and
much. Thank you so
hoping
much
you
for
a
inviting me.
bright
Yeah.
future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All the best to your channel. I checked it out and it has great videos. And I was talking about Geeks for Geeks and Lead Code, but I think a lot of great content has emerged on YouTube, and yours is also contributing to that era of self education, as you would say.
Thanks,
So
thanks. We're trying to make it better
great work that you're
every day.
doing. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks a lot. All right, man.
Thank
See
you.
you. Hope to
Thank you.
see
Bye
you
bye.
soon or talk to you again sometime.
Sure, sure. Same. Thank you.
And let's hope this COVID situation becomes better. We have
Right.
some vaccine available.
To a great year ahead. Yes.
Yes, yes. All right. See you, man.
Thank you. Bye bye.